listed as I held gear. You probably heard by now about the Jump Festa Master Rule Revision, or as I like to call it, Master Rule Ed, that's going to be taking place in the OCG come April 1st in the dub year. But if you have not, I'm going to simply help you out with that. And I don't need to go to the website that's all Japanese to explain what they're going to do. Now you guys let me know what you think of this in the comment section below, as well as share your opinions about these changes of the OCG in the comment section below as well. There's been no word on when this is going to happen in the TCG, and frankly, I'm all for these changes. Now, what better way to demonstrate how this can work is by using our friends the Thunder Dragons. So I'm going to give you a live dramatization of what's going on. Now, in the event that your play doesn't get impeded by Impermanence or Ash Blossom or the big rock to rock your world Nibiru, we're playing like that. So we'll play with our instant fusion. We'll pay our 1,000 life points, bust out with Kaminari attack. No big deal. Now we'll normal summon our Solar Battery Man. We know how Solar Battery Man works. We'll pitch Roar to the graveyard. Next up, we'll pitch one of our Thunder Dragons from our hand to the grave. This lets us pull 2 more from the deck, add them to our hand. Since we've used the Thunder Dragon effect discard, we'll just off that and pull out Super Thunder Dragon. Now, as you can see, there are 2 different fusion monsters on the board. One in the extra monster zone and one in the main monster zone. This coincides with how things are going to work come April 1st in the new year for Japan. We're going to be able to essentially take a second fusion, synchro, or Xyz monster from your extra deck and place it in the main monster zone. Now, there are many reasons as why they've chosen to go with this. Some is because certain cards have new support that don't necessarily revolve around Link monsters. Some will say that many of the decks out there, including ones that are getting support, don't really have Link monsters, and having to go get like a generic one for Links, like Claw Thief, or the ones that boost up specific attributes, or if you want to go that far, Verte Anaconda for the Predaplants. You know, not everybody has a Link. So these decks need to be able to play the extra deck. The big reason apparently is because somebody got extra decked, and because extra deck takes up the main 5 zones, 2 of them being both the extra monster zones, you won't be able to play the game anymore. So, if that's the actual case, let's give them a round of applause here. But frankly, you don't have to be restricted with your fusion, synchro, and Xyz monsters for Link arrows. Now, speaking of Links, let's talk about that for a moment. Because while some restrictions apply, others are not so lucky. Link monsters and Pendulum monsters do not get this freedom. They still have to abide by the extra monster zones provided by the Link arrows. So if you want to go with the Link monster action, you essentially have to pull out another monster pointing to one of the Link zones of an extra monster for your other Links or your extra monster deck Pendulum monsters, because everybody knows when they're destroyed they go to the extra deck instead of going to the graveyard. Remember folks, Link summoning was the way to nerf, aka balance, mass summoning of pendulum monsters from the extra deck. So, while links and pendulum monsters still have to apply by the main rules, fusion monsters do not have to go through all that. You can place them and not be restricted by the zones. Now, does this mean that we're going to reach the end of using link monsters as a medium? The answer is no, because there are still those powerful link monsters like Appaloosa, the Borals, IP Masquerena, and other various link monsters that are still out in the game. Plus, if you run pendulum monsters, you're still going to need to use a link monster to place pendulum monsters that are in your extra deck into the main monster zones. That you're not getting the pendulum swinging mass summoning from the extra deck anymore. Give that up. You're not getting that. And again, as I showed you, with having multiple fusion monsters, you're not limited to one of each. So you're not supposed to have one Xyz, one Synchro, one Fusion out on the extra monster board on the board when there's one already in the extra monster zone. That's not the case. You can have multiple fusions, but remember, your first one goes to the extra monster zone, and then the subsequent ones go into the main monster zones. Now, if you want to link, you still got to use the EM zone, and if you want to pendulum summon from your ED, you still got to use the main monster zone first, and then pull out Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, and then get the job done. Frankly, this is how it should have been going into the Reigns era out the gate, because many old players returning to the game did not like the fact that if they didn't have a link monster, like Lanfarinkis being the generic Link 2, if they didn't have something like Lanfarinkis, they couldn't really play more of their extra monsters. Again, they're testing this with Japan first, because the game started in Japan. Hopefully by the summer of Dub, we'll be able to have these rules, because frankly, one, I'm all for it, and two, this is the way it should have been going into Reigns era. But with Reigns era over, and the fact that they have said no new mechanic is going to be coming in, we're going to be working with these new monsters for a while, right? Well, wrong. There are no new monsters. It's just the currently existing monsters for the extra deck. Again, this is the way it should have been, in my factual and honest opinion. Not being able to be restricted to the extra monster zone with extra monsters. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But for now, I take my cards to the box, because I'm done. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.